Hey everybody, we are here, of course, at the Fantasy Flight World Championship weekend. It's Saturday. We're gearing up for a Game of Thrones joust, but I am joined by three fellow Tulsans. We have Alex, Matt, and Chris, and they did a special thing yesterday. They were doing some Game of Thrones drafting. So guys, tell me your impressions, tell me how it played out, what do you think, all that good stuff.
Well, I certainly had my doubts about the draft format. I mean, I've got the whole card pool, so me as a Game of Thrones player who's bought everything, I'm like, why do I want to rebuy cards? And what you have to understand is you're buying into the experience of the draft, which I had never done before. I had never drafted cards before. I didn't know what I was getting into. So when we started passing cards around and I started getting some synergy with my deck, I'm like, oh, this is actually working out pretty well.
Yeah.
And then like a rare might come by and I picked that off. It was very exciting.
Totally.
Because you don't know what's coming down the line. You don't know what kind of deck you're going to have until it's all said and done. So I had a lot of fun with it. I would certainly do it again.
Excellent.
Yeah, it was the first time I'd ever drafted as well.
Awesome.
And it was a lot of fun. It's a little, again, with an LCG model, it's a little tough, like, justifying buying all the cards again.
Right.
But they do have some spoilers in there.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple cards that we hadn't seen before in the draft, which is pretty cool.
Now those aren't legal yet, but
They're not legal in the joust format, but they're legal in draft format.
That's totally true.
Also, the draft starter's pretty cool. Gets you some extra resource locations. And they've got a cool treaty agenda you can use for the draft format, where you can use House X only from another house.
Totally.
Which is pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
It was great running Seasick out of Baratheon. Just throwing that out there. It was pretty good.
That's awesome. What'd you think, Chris?
Same thing. I have all the cards. I've never done a draft before, so I was super skeptical. But going in and playing was a ton of fun. Just drafting everything and seeing things come by. I really like the balance of the game. It seems like the cards they picked for the draft are super fun, and I like it's not, I don't know, it helps you play from behind. Like, I think it's great practice, because when your deck craps out on you, you don't know what to do, and in a draft you're not going to have a finely tuned deck.
Yeah.
So if you're top decking into some inefficient 4-cost 1-strength thing, you need to know how to play around it, and I just think it's a lot of fun. I think it's a really cool format.
And so you guys are all pretty new to the draft thing, so what were some of your initial thoughts and strategies as you were drafting and then as you were playing in order to kind of make this thing come together as your first experience?
Well, I had heard the initial advice of, like, try to draft characters really often, because, like, I guess you had the interview with John Bruno earlier, and he had mentioned that. So I was, like, trying to keep that in mind. But then at the end, I still was, like, pretty character light. I was like, oh!
Yeah.
So definitely make sure you pick enough characters, because you get sidetracked by some fancy effects that you can't really do much with if you don't have anything to win challenges on.
That's true.
So
now, you had a pretty interesting initial experience when you were drafting. You didn't, quite understand the agenda or something?
Yeah, I misread the agenda, so I was thinking you could use any house-only event, any card, not just the one you named your alliance with. So it ended up not being a bad thing. I grabbed a Burning on the Sands, and that was like enough to play Martell, that and Orphan.
Awesome.
So Stark and Martell with Orphans and Burning on the Sands, and Red Vengeance was awesome. 2 claim Stark challenges and then Red Vengeance to keep them at bay is good. But I'd say strategy-wise, the lack of a reset makes any renown super strong and makes any character control super strong, because if you get an annoying character out there and you can't handle it, it's going to continue to be there after every wildfire. So if you see character control or renown, it's
Fishing nets.
Fishing net or cancels. There are very few cancels. Like Seasick had to be a rare, probably.
Yeah, totally.
Die by the Sword was money for me.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, I had 1 Die by the Sword and only 3 War Crests, and I used it in every game. It was
That's fantastic.
I heard Valor might be mixed in there. Is that true?
Yeah, I think I've seen one pack with the Valor, but it's of course it's a random selection, so
Yeah,
they're
we
few
didn't
and
see
far
a
between.
Valor.
Yeah,
Scary.
You got to draft those plots when you see them.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks so much for joining us, guys, and of course we'll have more coming to you later today and throughout the rest of the weekend from Fantasy Flight Worlds. Take care, guys.